Hello everyone. In this video, I want to look at the interactional perspective of conflict and how we can use that lens to look at conflict interaction or conflict episodes. Remember, the perspective is just basically a lens through which we look at conflict. In this short video, I want to look at some of the focal points of this perspective, and I also want to look at some of the key or core assumptions that we have. One of the first things, and I won't address all of the assumptions, you have that in your document in Canvas, but what I want to address some of the ones that I think the perspective stands on. So the first thing is that the way conflict processes or progresses is what I should say. The way conflict progresses is based on a series of actions and reactions that play off of each other. So take, for example, two people are in a conflict. Somebody does something, someone says something, but that action there causes a reaction or impacts the reaction or influences the reaction of the other person or other parties in that conflict. They would then respond in a certain way. However that choice is made, right? Whether it's a physiological, biological process that is taking place here, or it's a very conscious decision to act a certain way, whatever they do is going to then cause a response from the other person. So this is what we mean by it's a series of actions and reactions that interact with each other, and this is what causes the conflict to progress in an escalatory or de-escalatory way. In this perspective, it is acknowledged that in some cases people make very intentional behavioral choices. So I may choose to shout even though I have an idea of what the consequence of that shouting might be, or I may want a very particular outcome from that shouting, right? So I may choose to stand a certain way. I may choose to behave a certain way. I may choose to say things a certain way. So this perspective acknowledges that people make very intentional choices in the behaviors in which they engage. I've already mentioned the idea that actions are influenced by other behaviors and other actions from the other parties in the conflict. And one of the other things that we definitely want to touch on is this idea that there are rules around communication. Some of these rules are implicit and some are explicit. And depending on what these rules are or how these rules are interpreted or how these rules are engaged in the conflict interaction, it can definitely impact how a conflict unfolds. So we may have a rule about when somebody is communicating with us that they should face us squarely. And if they decide to, in the middle of the conflict, turn to the side or turn their backs to us, that is a very clear communication choice that is being made. Or I shouldn't say it's a clear communication choice that is being made. That is a communication behavior that is being enacted. And because of that communication behavior that is being enacted, the other party may see that as a rule being violated or not, and that may cause the conflict to go in a very particular direction. This perspective settles on the idea that the conflict is all about the patterns and how these patterns of behavior, sometimes they're repetitive, sometimes they're entrenched, how these patterns of behavior impact conflict escalation or de-escalation. So what I'm going to do in the next short video is discuss the confrontational episodes theory or social confrontation theory.